Hey boys, what's going on? I'm back with another Fan Hub video, and this time we're having a look at the Gold Coast Titans updates. So first off, we start with James Roberts, who is equal highest rated player with Caesar, and you know, I somewhat agree with that. I mean, he's probably been one of their best players this year, so it's hard to argue. The likeness isn't actually too bad, honestly. I think it's pretty good. The sideline view is a little funky, but I think overall the face is pretty similar. The likeness isn't too bad. I mean, Titans were one of those teams that didn't have hardly any created likenesses on the community, so it's good to get some decent looking likenesses. As we move on to Aiden Caesar, which I don't really like this. The likeness doesn't, honestly, it doesn't look like him at all, really. But yeah, Aiden Caesar not going to be playing at the Titans next year, which is a real shame, because I rate Aiden Caesar really highly. I think he's a very good player. I think he's pretty underrated too. His kicking game, in my opinion, is one of the best in the league. Every time I watch the Titans, like, his kicks always seem to find the ground. He just splits the fullback and wingers so well. But the likeness, honestly, isn't that great. Could do with a bit of work. Greg Bird is someone that I've seen a really good likeness of, so this one, although it isn't too bad, it definitely doesn't compete with the one I've seen on the community already. Josh Hoffman now, again, one of my players that I really like, that I was sad to see go from the Broncos, but you know, if he stayed at the Broncos, he would have struggled to get in the side, really, because they have way too many fullbacks and backs in general. So it was good that he got a chance to go to the Titans and cement a fullback spot, which he hasn't really got to cement that spot, but hopefully he can cement a fullback spot there. I think he is probably their best option at fullback. I know Zillman is decent, but I think Zillman's a bit past it. I think Hoffman's definitely the best choice. The likeness is actually pretty good, honestly. I think it's decent. Pretty happy with that one. It's probably the best one I've seen so far. The Roberts in this one are pretty good. Nate Miles, well, we know this one is good. This is like one of the very first screenshots we saw when Miles was getting tackled. This is the same likeness, and it looks really good, honestly. Yeah, not much to say about that. Also, not going to be at the Titans next year. Pretty much getting, not really swapped for Shillington, but Miles is going out, Shillington's coming in. And honestly, I feel like that's probably a pretty good outcome for the Titans. You know, Shillington has been just huge for the Raiders this year. He has been outstanding. Probably like one of the form front rowers in the game. And Miles, honestly, I don't think Miles has been that good. He's been okay, but I feel like him moving on from the Titans is probably the best thing to happen. But we'll see. Hopefully Shillington can bring his form. You know, he's old as well, so you know. William Zillman, not too bad. I think it's pretty good. You know, Zillman's it's been one of those solid players for a long time now. You know, probably a bit underrated, honestly. He's never really made any rep teams, but he's been like one of the better fullbacks for a long time now. Well, probably not one of the better fullbacks, but he's been one of the most consistent fullbacks in probably a pretty weak team, you'd say, the Titans. You know, the roster isn't too bad, but they're just missing those star players, really. Then we got Ryan James. You know, it's not too bad. The problem is, like, they don't have enough hairstyles for James, and obviously he's actually shaved his hair off just recently, but yeah, this isn't really the way his hair used to look, but that's probably the best they could do, because there's actually not that many options for hairstyles in the game, which is probably the only thing that's lacking in the player creator, which it does have a fair few options, but it's missing a few notable ones. But it's pretty good, not a bad likeness. Bo Falloon. This one's pretty decent, I've got to say. Probably one of the better ones. Yeah. Pretty decent. David Mead. Extremely good player. It's funny how it's always funny, like, he plays exclusively on the wing for the Titans, occasionally fullback, but when the city country games get picked, he's always, last few years, he's always been picked at fullback, and he's played like really good at fullback, so it's strange to me that he gets picked at fullback, but it shows that he is a really good player there. Like, I thought he was one of the best players in, this year's city country, but, you know, he's just one of those guys that don't really get a shot at the higher levels. You know, if he was a Queenslander, I don't know. It's hard to say he would get a couple of games because our backline's really good, but Mead's definitely someone I'd like to have as a Queenslander. I really like him as a player. Matt Traumer, been pretty unlucky lately with injuries. Pretty good likeness, really. You know, he's not the guy with the headgear, but the face isn't too bad. Daniel Mortimer, I don't really know though. I don't know why the Titans signed Mortimer. You know, he's just not that good a player. He's a decent player, but I don't think he's NRL standard as a starting halfback or 5'8". You know, he obviously came off the bench for the Roosters in their grand final, but I don't think he's much more than that. He's solid, but he doesn't really have it, in my opinion. And I don't know why the Titans keep him around. You know, I guess for cover, you do need those cover players. The likeness isn't very good though. Luke Douglas. This one's pretty good. I think a few of the forwards are actually their better likenesses, but yeah, this one's pretty decent. Luke Douglas. Then we move on to Kevin Gordon, who I like a lot, and I think he's a much better player than Anthony Don. I know a lot of people disagree with that. I think Don is not that good. Kevin Gordon is much better player. I would definitely have him over Don any day of the week. But the likeness is okay, I guess. But here's another example of not having enough hairstyles. He's got the exact same one as Ryan James, and it's probably more similar to the way Kevin Gordon has his hair at the moment, but still not that good. And the likeness is pretty, all these times when they're pretty, I don't know, they're not that good, honestly. Kieran Mosley, this one's actually pretty good. Yeah, this is probably one of the better ones. Kieran Mosley. Dave Taylor, dude, just so inconsistent. And every year it's I just read in the paper recently, it's like an article about Dave Taylor's most turbulent year in footy, how he had no consistency and all that. And it's like, that happens every year. Every year there's like an article on Dave Taylor and the way it's going to be fixed and all that nonsense. But who knows where he's going to go next year. I don't think he's signed anywhere yet. I think Titans want him to move on, but I don't think a club has really offered him anything yet, so we'll see where he goes. I'm sure a club would like to have a Dave Taylor because the potential is there. He just can't produce it. But the likeness is actually pretty good. Probably one of the best ones. Kane Elgey, really good young player. This likeness is terrible though. This likeness really isn't good. But Kane Elgey is a very good player. Khalifa Faifai-Loa. You know, I'm surprised Loa hasn't got... I want to say I'd like to have Loa in the starting side, but you've got, like, in my opinion, you've got Mead and Gordon ahead of him on the wings. The Titans do have a very good backline, in my opinion. Their forwards are definitely lacking, but their backline is good, so... Faifai-Loa I like as a player, but he probably isn't going to get a chance too much at the Titans, which is shown. But yeah, I do really like him as a player. Brad Ty. Not a great likeness. Again, just a pretty average looking one. Then we got Anthony Don. Anthony Don, it's not too bad. It's not a bad likeness. Pretty decent. I don't think does he even have a beard? I don't think Don has a beard, does he? He might have a bit of a stubble, but I thought he was pretty clean shaven when I seen him. Oh, then the next guy, Mark Ione. For some reason, he's actually moved to the Dragons. Like a couple of weeks ago, I think, I was watching the game and I saw Ione on the bench for the Dragons, which surprised me a lot because obviously he was contracted to the Titans this year, so obviously a mid-season transfer, which I had no idea about, but I was pretty pissed off about that because I rate Ione as a very good player, but for some reason the Titans just did not play him. He was one of these guys in the Queensland Cup who was far and away one of the best forwards every week. You know, he was on another level compared to most Queensland Cup players, but he just didn't really get a go at the Titans. But he's at the Dragons now, so hopefully he can cement a bit of a spot there. David Haller. We'll do a few more. David Haller. Again, he doesn't get much time at the Titans. He moved to the Broncos, obviously, didn't get much game time there. I think he's still injured, or he's had a lot of trouble with injuries, which is a shame. I like Haller as a player. But yeah, he hasn't really had a chance. Ignatius Parsi. He's been pretty good, honestly. The likeness isn't very good. We'll just do Ben Ridge. Ben Ridge. Not a bad likeness. It's not that good. But yeah, that's the Titans done. This video dragged on a fair bit for some reason. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.